Okay, we're a couple minutes after the hour, and so we will get started. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. And thanks to Lexplore for inviting me to present about attention and the attention arcade. Just a few quick housekeeping rules. Everyone is on mute. We are recording the webinar. If you have questions during the webinar, there is a Q&A tab that you should see. You can enter your questions there, and we will address them at the end of the webinar. So today, I want to talk to you about attention. We all know attention is important, but do you think it is trainable? Many people don't. But I want to share with you why attention is trainable and why it matters even more than you realize. I'm Jeff Coleman, CEO of Brainleap Technologies. We care deeply about attention because of the impact it can have on people's lives. Let me share a little story with you. 8-year-old Jack loved to read the encyclopedia. He liked to digest and share the dense information that was in there. However, he also liked to read the encyclopedia because he had challenges reading anything longer than because he had attention challenges. Reading even short novels was just super challenging for him. The good news is that after training with the attention arcade for several months, Jack was able to read the entire Harry Potter series over the summer. Now he is a voracious reader. Do you think better reading skills impacted his academics? Clearly, he was able to train those skills. So let's talk a little bit more about what's going on. Classrooms are designed to help children pay attention. Teachers ensure that students put away distractions and only keep out what they're currently working on. And it's generally understood that eyes are expected to be on the teacher. It sounds pretty straightforward, but many kids struggle to pay attention. One child I heard describe the situation is that it's like having 100 TVs on in the same room. Wow, no wonder it's hard to pay attention. I have enough trouble if one TV is on and I'm trying to have a conversation. I like to use a bike analogy for attention skills. When you first learn to ride a bike, there's so many things to focus on. Pedaling, balancing, steering without oversteering, and watching where you're going. Plus, there's an overriding fear that you're going to fall any minute. It's exhausting to ride for just 10 minutes because it requires a huge amount of focus. That is what it is like with weak attention skills in the classroom. You need to focus on what the teacher's saying, not get distracted by the birds outside the window, ignore your classmates who are whispering to each other, and suppress the distracting thoughts about Minecraft. The good news is, once you strengthen those skills, paying attention is a lot more like being an experienced bike rider. So, if we start with the goal of academic success, and we know that reading is just foundational to any academic success, we need students with strong executive function skills. The fact is that many students struggle in school due to weak executive function skills. Research indicates that executive function is more important to school readiness than IQ or entry-level reading or math skills. The 3 core executive function skills are self-control, working memory, and cognitive flexibility. Underlying each of these executive function skills, though, is attention. Attention forms the bedrock on which all of these higher level skills are built. So how is attention involved in each? Let's start with self-control. Attention plays a crucial part of self-monitoring, which is needed to inhibit immediate wants in favor of longer-term rewards. If we are not aware of our immediate wants, we cannot even make the decision about what to do. We cannot even make the decision of what to do about it. It is needed, for example, not to blurt out the first thing that comes to mind, which might be hurtful to others or embarrassing to yourself. We need it to not jump to a conclusion before getting all the facts, or to not give the first answer that occurs to you when if you took a little more time, you could give a better response. Attention is needed to successfully bring information into working memory, where it can be manipulated and used for solving problems. For example, with an order of operation problem, we need to call up the rules and attend to the different parts of the problem to apply the rules and solve it correctly. Working memory is also important for translating instructions into action plans and any type of reasoning. It's also involved in pursuing goals. We need to keep our goals in mind to develop a plan to reach them. And cognitive flexibility requires attentional focus and redirection to quickly shift tasks and goals. For example, a child who has a disagreement on the playground needs cognitive flexibility to quickly re-engage in the classroom when returning to class and to pay attention to what the teacher's saying rather than still being stuck on that disagreement that may have happened. So what happens when a child that lacks strong attention skills spends a whole day working really hard to muster their attention and focus on schoolwork? They are emotionally and mentally exhausted. They might lash out at home or just need a lot of alone time. Conversely, they may not try to attend to schoolwork at all because it's so very, very hard for them. However, they are likely to feel inadequate or dumb over time, and that's not a place we want any child to be. Without strong executive function skills, children have a hard time setting and pursuing goals, developing reasonable plans, and following through on any plans they do create. As is probably obvious, these skills are not just important in school, they are important in life. And finally, without self-control, children are more prone to emotional outbursts, blurting, and more. And this is not fun for anyone. So what can you do about it? Well, let me give you 5 strategies to improve attention. And as you might guess, one of these will be the attention arcade, but I do want to share some others with you because there are ways that you can work on attention skills for your children or students. We're all impacted by our environment. If we need to, for example, if I need to do any writing, it's very important that I have quiet or wear headphones playing instrumental music. I can't work with any words in English. And so it just shows how easily distracted, people can be. So you want to create a good learning environment for children. We want to minimize distractions and provide the necessary tools right in that environment, making sure they have pencils, paper, workbooks, whatever it might be. It could be a great ritual before each class to help students find what they need for that class, whether they're doing distance learning or whether it's in person. Some kids really benefit from using headphones, particularly if they're doing distance learning, because it helps block out any audio distractions in the environment. And you also might want to figure out how to position them such that they have less distractions visually around them, such as using a poster board. And if a child has to work on a computer, the computer itself can be a big distraction. That's where we really want to use technology to our advantage. You can only allow websites that are school focused for them, or there are tools such as Circle that can limit internet access during specific hours. The important thing is for your child to recognize that it is hard for them and that you are looking for solutions together. Exercise. There are many reasons that schools have a running club, at least here in the US, before classes start. They even make a game of it to see how many laps a student can make. The evidence is clear. There are immediate benefits after exercising. Children find it easier to pay attention. But there are also long-term benefits to exercising 3 to 5 times per week. Children that get regular exercise have fewer attention challenges. So get your child up and moving, whether it's before class starts or after school, just making sure they get regular exercise and make it fun. Activities that require focus and attention placed on precise movement in the body, such as ballet and martial arts, can really benefit attention. They practice precise movements again and again to really get a feel for it. And it is important to pay attention to where your body is in space. Plus, these environments are designed for focus. When my boys did karate, I was amazed at how a karate dojo can keep young kids focused on their movements and the directions of their sensei. It was silent in that place, other than what the sounds they were supposed to be making. Similarly, ballet provides an environment that is cultivated to be very serious about movement. They want to really position their bodies in very precise ways, and you have to pay attention for that. Another useful sport is swimming. First, it's very tiring, so it checks off that exercise goal. And with it, children have to focus on improving their stroke and very precise movements, as well as their endurance. And it can provide a very focused environment that allows children to really think and pay attention to what's going on. Yoga and meditation can also help. It's calming and improves awareness. Yoga is typically easier for children with attention challenges because it involves movement. It promotes physical awareness and reflection. Yoga encourages children to match their breath to movements and to feel their bodies in space. This can be a very new experience for many children, particularly those with attention challenges. The precision of the movements can be valuable for becoming more self-aware, and there is a natural patience in the practice for taking the time to get it right. And finally, I want to talk to you about my favorite solution for attention challenges. That's Brainleap's attention training games. These games empower families and schools to train and measure attention skills in children. The Attention Arcade is a suite of gaze contingent video games. That means that you control the games using only your eyes via an eye tracker. That's this black bar here across the front of the screen. As you can see, the young lady's not touching anything there. She is controlling where the spaceship goes with just her eyes. The suite includes 7 attention training games, as well as 5 objective attention assessments that are measuring a child's progress. The recommended training time is 20 to 30 minutes per week, at least 3 times per week. So let's talk about video games. They often get a bad rap. While playing video games too long does keep kids away from getting out and moving and developing other skills, action video games, and this is backed by research, have been linked to improvements in perception, visuospatial attention, movement skill, and working memory. So the evidence is definitely there that action video games can actually help your child develop skills. But the Attention Arcade takes this one step further. So let me just show you a little video here of Ella playing the Attention Arcade. As you can clearly see, she's not touching the keyboard or mouse. The gray circle you see is where her eyes are looking. And she has her arms down there and is just using her eyes. So each of the games trains different aspects of attention. The first game here is Shroom Digger, trains attention by requiring steady fixation of gaze, visual search in a crowded field, and the ability to move ignoring distractions in the landscape. These are all important to attention. Dr. Mole and Mr. High trains the ability to quickly and accurately orient the player's gaze and attention to a sudden event, those moles popping up, and to monitor a wide range of view. It also trains inhibitory control, as you are not supposed to look at Dr. Mole, and you saw you got a warning there right before it popped up. You got another, you don't look at that mole. In Butterfly Bob, you're training anticipatory focus, planning, and prioritization. Bob can only move up and down, and he has to reach the flowers without running into the bugs, or they steal all of his nectar. Next up, we'll look at one of our assessments called Gone Fishing. Here you're measuring task switching and inhibitory control. As you can see, the player looked away from the turtle when he popped up, but you do look at the fish. So it's easy to look at the fish, but it's hard to look away from the turtle when it pops up. Right there, oh, you looked at the turtle and the fish made blue raspberries. These are, that last one is for measuring the skills that a child has developed. Oops, sorry. So let's understand a little of the neuroscience behind it. My 2 co-founders are both neuroscientists, and they care deeply about the foundational science behind this things. So the easiest way to describe it is that where we look and where we're planning to look is where we're placing our attention. The Attention Arcade leverages that connection to train attention skills and get several areas of the brain working together more effectively. Dr. Mole and Mr. High trains two different but related skills. The first is fast and accurate shifts of attention. You train this skill as you look at the bandit moles popping out of the holes. As you work on improving fast and accurate shifts of attention, you're engaging different parts of the brain, including the frontal and parietal regions. Identifying the bandit moles with your peripheral vision and looking at them quickly helps to strengthen the connections between these regions of the brain, which makes it easier to make fast and accurate eye movements and shifts of attention. The game also trains players to inhibit shifts of attention. When Dr. Mole pops up, you're not supposed to look at him. You even get a warning. While it is natural to want to look at something that appears suddenly, we can engage the same areas of the brain to suppress this eye movement to Dr. Mole. The parietal regions of the brain recognize Dr. Mole as a potential target, but with practice, inhibiting a movement to the target, the frontal regions strengthen their connections. Establishing when to move and when to suppress a movement is particularly important for self-control and staying on task when there are distractions. The way in which the brain makes and strengthens connections is known as neuroplasticity. Connections of the brain can be strengthened when different regions are active at the same time. A common phrase that describes neuroplasticity is when neurons fire together, they wire together. This means that when brain cells in a circuit are active one after another repeatedly, the connections in that circuit become stronger. So let me just tell you a little bit about how Brainleap got started. Two neuroscientists at UC San Diego decided they were tired of the way attention research was not directly helping individuals. Typically, after research is done, a paper is published and put on the shelf. So they set out to create research-based interventions that could really help. The resulting attention training games appeared to work well. Parents saw real differences in their kids' behavior and their ability to focus on schoolwork. And as parents and educators know, improved attention skills can change the trajectory of a child's life. Once the research was done, Brainleap was founded to get the games out of the lab and into the schools and homes where they could help, and that's where I became involved. So let me tell you a little bit about the research behind the Attention Arcade. In a study at UC San Diego, participants with attention challenges saw significant improvements. There was a 30% improvement in focus based on the NICHQ survey of parents. Participants had a 55% improvement in inhibiting distraction. This is the ability to not get distracted by shiny objects or sounds while working on a task. And finally, there was an average improvement in orienting quickly of 68%. This is a skill you'd use in having a conversation with multiple people. You want to make fast and accurate shifts of attention to allow you to see facial expressions and social cues very quickly while they still are relevant. And the really interesting thing about this study is all 23 participants who completed it, got 20 hours of training in, saw improvements on at least one measure, and most of them across all three measures of improvement. Similarly, there was a study done at the University of Florida. They used the Attention Arcade, they used the Attention Arcade, which includes the training games and the assessments that we had built after the prior study. It was an independent researcher at the University of Florida, had no ties to Brainleap, and he ran the study in an after-school program. The 19 participants in the study had attention challenges primarily from ADHD and dyslexia. The average improvement across the three measures of attention were a 32% improvement in fast and accurate shifts of attention, a 65% improvement in inhibitory control, and a 35% improvement in fast gaze shifts. And that was a different measure than the other study, but that would be shifting your attention and your gaze to something quickly and accurately so that you can notice it and pay more attention to it. And interestingly, because we were doing the study over time and we had the assessments built in, rather than just measuring improvements at the beginning and end of the study, we were able to measure improvements at multiple points during that study. And for example, in improvements in fast orienting, you can see that they went from about 40% correct up to about 80% correct on those. Similarly, with the gone fishing assessment that you saw, looking at the fish is really easy for children, near 100% accuracy, the blue line there. But the improvement of looking away from the turtle went from less than 20% accuracy to over 80%. And inspector collector, where we're making quick shifts of attention, gaze shifts, there were improvements over time as well, both near and far from the target. So building attention skills is a lot like exercise. First, you need to do the right exercises to get the benefits. But second, you need to do it regularly. If you do work on those skills, it can make the difference for a lifetime. So as you now know, better attention skills can lead to improved executive function, which leads to better success in school and in life. Brainleap's goal is to help more children reach their potential by strengthening those attention skills. And one thing we'd like to point out is that most approaches to, all the approaches we've talked about today are about helping children identify and improve their skills. Medication is not, and while some children absolutely do need medication, we want to help more children go from treating a disease to doing something that they have the power to improve. And I love the quote from one of our special ed educators. He said, the students love it so far. Some of them think they have superpowers. And how wonderful is that to empower children so that they can feel like they have control and that they're building a power, a superpower around their attention skills. So if you're interested in the Attention Arcade, the investment for families, and this is not schools or tutoring centers, but is for, and multiple children in a family can play. It's £45 per month through our partner Lexplore. And there is a one-time fee of buying the eye tracker. You can use your own if you have it, not many people have them, but it's £195. We also provide some parent training via our emails and some videos included there, but we also can do a webinar for anyone who's interested. It's really important that children play 20 hours of play, and we expect them to do that over about 3 months. And that's where you'll start to see that's where you'll see the really big improvements. And then for the next 3 months, we recommend 3 months of maintenance, which means playing less than the 3 to 5 times per week, maybe once or twice per week. But overall, it's a 6-month commitment for families for this. If you are interested in purchasing the Attention Arcade, you can go to the Lexplore site at the link below, and Lexplore will send out a link to that right after this webinar. But you can also call, particularly if you are a school or associated with a school or a tutoring center, it would be a good idea to call because the pricing structure is different. So at this point, I wanted to know if anyone had any questions. I see there are 2 questions in the Q&A. Let me just pull those up and see what we can do. Yes, it was on one of the slides, but I did not emphasize it. What ages are the games designed for? Is it suitable for a 5-year-old with autism and ADHD? The games are really designed for children 7 to 14. We have had 5- and 6-year-olds play the game successfully. Wouldn't strongly recommend it for a child who's 5, though. You probably want to wait another year till they're at least 6 so that they can really develop the skills that they're expected to have. So we're training, particularly around inhibitory control, we're training things that we wouldn't expect all 5-year-olds to really have yet. So it's really, they can really struggle with the games. Let's see. Have any of your trials measured improvements using the QB test? Not to my knowledge. I admit I am the business person and not the scientist, but I don't believe we've used anything called the QB test. I'd be interested in learning more. If you want to ask that question or come on live, we can talk more about that. What about children over 14? Okay, so here is our dilemma. The studies actually included kids or young adults up to 25, and they did see a benefit. What we found is that children over 14 find our games to not be engaging enough. And the real problem is that they have to train enough to get the benefits. So We do have a 15-year-old who was really diligent and has seen big improvements, but he's the exception, not the standard. If you think your child would play the games because they know it's good for them, then older children over 14 would definitely still benefit. It's just that they're not going to find it as much fun. All right. Any other questions? Oh, I have someone who raised a hand. I can allow you to talk. Just want to let you know you will be recorded, but I will allow, let's see. Okay, Abdul, you have a question?
All right, thank you very much. I mean, my question has to do with, is the game only meant for students with special needs or just solving a purpose? Thank you very much.
Sure, great question. The games are meant for anyone who struggles with attention. So they do not need to be diagnosed or categorized in any way. They simply need to be struggling. We like to, relate it to exercise. So any child who could benefit from having stronger muscles could do, I mean, it's not good for young children, but can do exercises, weightlifting to build the muscles. And that's what we're really doing here, is building that attention muscle. And of course, it's not a real muscle, but it's really, that's the closest analogy we can come to, is you're training those skills. So any child who is struggling with attention can definitely benefit from training. I see I have a few more questions. We use something called Dyslexia Gold, recommended by Robin Pock years ago. Is this the same sort of thing? I don't think so. I'm not familiar with Dyslexia Gold, but there have not been any type of video games to train attention skills that were available years ago. The big difference with a video game is that children can practice and have fun, and the premise of a video game is you start with no skill and you build skills as you play. And so that really makes it a low bar to get to develop those skills and not feel like you're failing. And one of my favorite stories, we were in a school, one of our early adopters, and they had a child come over and had him play the attention training games. And the game he played was Dr. Mole and Mr. Hyde. And that's the one where you look at the bandit moles that pop up and you look away from the Dr. Mole when it pops up. And this young man, he was 7 years old, was really struggling with not looking at the Dr. Mole. And, he was trying all kinds of different strategies. He was turning his head away, but then he missed the next mole that popped up. He was covering his eyes, but then looking through his fingers. He was trying everything, but the part that was so important was he wasn't frustrated. He was actually laughing as he was doing this because it's a game, it's fun. And so that's why the video game aspect of it is so important. Someone asked, how do the glasses connect to the screen? We don't use glasses at all. It is using an eye tracker, which is merely a bar that goes across the bottom of the screen that can measure your eye movements. It's not our technology. It's actually a well-established technology from a company called Tobii, and it measures your eye movements in real time and can tell where you're looking where you're looking at on the screen. Will this video be available to replay or share? I believe so. I believe Lexplore is going to share it. It is being recorded. As long as I didn't mess up the recording, it should be available. So someone asked about the Dyslexia Gold, said it was an eye tracking game. You wore 3D glasses and shot tanks getting harder. I will have to look this up. It sounds more similar than anything I have ever heard of. I do not know if it's actually tracking your eyes. that's an important part of what we do, because where you look and where you're planning to look is where you're placing your attention, and having children really focus within the screen and not be able to look away even for a split second because you move your eyes 3 to 4 times per second. We really want to help train and bring those skills in, but it certainly sounds more similar than anything we've heard of before. So I will have to check into that. Thank you. So how does the device measure impact of a user? So we're measuring, we took the measurements they were using in the lab and we created video games that mimic them. And to be quite honest, the assessment games aren't nearly as fun as the training games, but you only have to do them occasionally. And so we're mimicking what they do in the lab, which some of that can be kind of dull, but we made it more fun and more engaging. And at that point, we started doing baselines with all of our players. And then we do about every 4 hours of training, we measure again how they're doing so that we can see what improvements they're making over time and where they're improving and where they may not be improving, and what that might be. Can you use it if you wear glasses? Absolutely. I had one creative when we were doing a presentation or a demo for high school students. I had one creative young man who asked if he could do it with mirrored sunglasses on, and it actually works because it's using infrared strobes. I didn't know before he tested them at that point, but it works very well with regular glasses. The only time there's a problem is if the glasses are really dirty or scratched up, but that's the only time we run into any kind of challenges with glasses. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, I actually have a flight to catch. So I'd like to head to the airport, but I appreciate all of you being here. And oh, I have one. Oh, no, we got that. Okay. I thought someone else had raised their hand. Yeah, thank you so much for coming. Reach out to Lexplore if you are interested in the Attention Arcade in the UK, and they can absolutely help you. I appreciate your time. And if you have any further questions, you can email me. There's my email address right on the screen. And or you can reach out to Lexplore and they will forward any questions you have on to me if they can't answer it. So thank you so much. And with that, I believe we will end the webinar. Bye.